Friday afternoon. We have so much to cover today with the Maduro capture and President Donald Trump holding his press conference earlier this morning. Joining us now is Congressman James Walkinshaw of Virginia. James, welcome to our show, and Happy New Year. But again, only the third day going into 2026. Something like this happens where President Donald Trump says that, quote, "We will run Venezuela." Your reaction?
Well, I think it's a complete betrayal of what President Trump said when he was running for president. You know, he said he was going to focus on bringing down prices. His policies are driving up prices. He said he was going to end the, quote, stupid foreign wars. He's gotten us into what I think is, in my view, a stupid foreign war. So in addition to the illegality of the action we've seen in Venezuela, it's a complete betrayal of what he told the American people he'd do. And I don't think it's what the American people want their president focused on. The American people want a president obsessed about addressing the cost of living, the cost of groceries, the cost of health care. We seem to have a president obsessed with one dictator, Maduro in Venezuela.
And when we think about what just took place, right, we know that he's been captured. He's on his way with his wife on a ship to New York, and obviously another huge city there. All of this is a lot to take in, not just for us, but people that live in Venezuela as well. Why do you think President Trump did this? What was the goal here?
Well, I think he's been telegraphing for months that he wanted to overthrow Maduro. I think we can speculate as to his goals. President Trump stated today and seemed very enthusiastic about American companies getting access to the oil in Venezuela. We know that after the 2020 election, President Trump bought into some insane conspiracy theories about Venezuela and Maduro manipulating the voting machines. Obviously untrue, but the kind of conspiracy theory that President Trump bought into after that election. So I think he's had a grudge against Maduro for a long time and saw this as an opportunity to act on that grudge. I mean, look, Maduro is a bad guy. He is a brutal dictator, and the United States of America should have, for many years, been working to support movements for democracy in Venezuela. But an illegal, unconstitutional, armed invasion is not the way to do it.
Absolutely, and this just into our newsroom here at around 11:03. The MPD say that they responded to the 1000 block of 30th Street, and I just want to mention this really quick for our viewers that are watching at home. MPD responded to the 1000 block of 30th Street Northwest to help U.S. Secret Service with a bomb threat. For additional details, of course, we'll be reaching out to the U.S. Secret Service as well. I just wanted to make sure we are making our viewers aware of the latest information that we have here in our newsroom. And again, Congressman James, I mean, when we think about everything that's just playing out, there's a worry as well that we're going to see chaos in our own backyards, whether that's here in D.C. or across the country, not just in Venezuela.
Americans safe, and especially our brave service members who were sent to Venezuela, safe has to be the top priority. And it seems like at this point, the operation went relatively smoothly. But when you engage in this kind of hostility, with this kind of armed invasion, it's impossible to predict what will happen from here. We don't know what the future leadership of Venezuela will look like. Donald Trump says that the United States is going to, quote, run Venezuela. I don't think the American people, certainly this Congress, is not interested in the United States running Venezuela or paying to run Venezuela. So there are a lot of unintended consequences that are going to come from this, and we'll have to monitor that very closely as the days and weeks proceed.
Absolutely. When we think about our involvement really in foreign affairs, foreign policy, other countries, and we think about our resources here back at home, when we think about this capture and what has been announced, how will that impact our resources and our economy?
Well, I think it remains to be seen. I think there's a real risk of destabilizing the region, destabilizing the hemisphere, the possibility of civil war in Venezuela breaking out, and the United States bearing some responsibility to try to mitigate the impacts of that. Again, when you undertake this kind of armed invasion, it's difficult to predict what will happen. And I think the American people, a lot of folks voted for Donald Trump in 2024 because he said, again, he was going to focus on the U.S. economy, focus on bringing down inflation and bringing costs down. He's failed on that measure. He said he was going to end foreign wars and get us out of foreign wars. He said there would be peace within days of him being sworn in as president. None of that has turned out to be true. He's now dragged us into a new foreign war that puts the United States and our service members at risk.
And how do you think he has put us at risk? What can happen now?
Well, like I said, we're now engaged in hostilities with a sovereign nation, Venezuela. There's a possibility of civil war there. There's a possibility of the region being destabilized. There's a possibility of Maduro's allies or his supporters within the regime in Venezuela retaliating in some way. We just don't know what can happen.
Absolutely. So another question I have is how important is it that transparency when leaders make big statements like this about foreign intervention? How important is transparency at this point? Because this is just huge. I mean, us running Venezuela and him saying making Venezuela great again.
Well, transparency is paramount, and the Constitution requires for this kind of military action requires the president to come to Congress to get approval before engaging in this kind of hostility. President Trump obviously didn't do that. I think you'll see a vote in both the House and Senate next week on war powers resolutions that could restrict the president's ability to continue in these hostilities. The House voted in December on a war powers resolution related to Venezuela. It failed by only 2 votes, 211 to 213. Only one Republican would need to flip their vote for that vote to change entirely. So I think you'll see a renewed effort. I certainly, as one member of Congress, will be advocating for Congress to assert its constitutional authority here. If we're going to be engaged in a war with Venezuela, that's something that Congress needs to debate. We need to hear from our constituents about, give the American people the opportunity to weigh in.
When we talk about the situation and the announcement that President Trump has made during that press conference, how does that make us look in front of the entire world when you talk about politics and America's image in front of our own allies? Does this make our allies uneasy, or does this make us look stronger, grander in front of the entire international community?
Well, look, I don't think capturing one dictator of one small nation makes us look grand or powerful. I think the fear is that the international community sees this and sees it as a carte blanche to engage in similar activities. If the United States can say this individual is facing criminal charges in the United States, so we can invade their nation and capture that individual to bring him to the United States for trial, what's to stop President Xi in China from saying or doing the same with respect to a leader in Taiwan? What's to prevent Vladimir Putin from saying that President Zelensky is facing charges in Russia, so they're going to kidnap him and bring him to Moscow to face charges in court? It's a very troubling precedent, and the world is absolutely watching, and it will probably take many decades for us to fully understand the damage that the Trump administration has done here.
Absolutely. And my last question to you, James, is when we think about the situation currently and President Donald Trump incredibly proud of this moment, he has mentioned this would be one of his biggest accomplishments as a president and his administration, and obviously pointing fingers to the left and the other parties. Do you think this is a big accomplishment for his administration?
I don't think it's a big accomplishment for his administration. A big accomplishment for his administration would be doing the things he said he would do in the campaign when he ran for president. A big accomplishment would be bringing down the cost of groceries. A big accomplishment would be bringing down healthcare costs. A big accomplishment would be delivering for the American people in ways that make their day-to-day lives easier and what they want to see from their president. And we just haven't seen that from Donald Trump. We've seen him more obsessed with the price of Greenland than the price of groceries, caring more about what happens in Caracas than what happens in Cincinnati. And we need a president who's focused on helping the American people who are struggling right now in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Congressman James Walkinshaw of Virginia speaking to us. We really appreciate your insight here. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
This week on